39, drunk at Disorderlies 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 39, 39, 39, 39, 39, drunk at Disorderlies. All right. Welcome back to Bar 1830. Hello, Toronto.
Fires
Excellent segue in there, folks.
Fires me up.
Big shout out to Chris Larson, who
Recorded that song for us.
and
Yeah,
wrote
yeah.
that song for us.
My brother.
Absolutely, yeah.
Shout
yeah.
out to New York City. Right now, he lives in New York City, across the street from Madison Square Garden. From his place, you see the lights of Madison Square Garden. Thanks.
There are probably like 900,000 people that have
Like
exactly
he's
the
the
same
only
view.
one.
Let's just shout out to Manhattan because it's still there. Woo!
It's a cool, fun fact about my brother, and I thought I would share it.
It's okay. I'm not trying to shoot you
I
down.
thought the cool fact was that he wrote the song, but yeah.
That's what I thought too.
you're right.
Living across the street from something that everybody knows is kind of like, well, hey, there's a bird and it sits on the tree outside of my house.
He does one
You
thing
ever
that
seen
everyone else
birds
does.
before? They're out there.
But read original songs. That's.
All right.
That's
What are we
just
doing
crazy.
here? Focus. Let's get
I
to
didn't
it.
bring my book, so I really don't know.
Oh, he's lost without his diary.
That's okay. He told me earlier
This is
in a
my
secret
diary now.
confession that he couldn't even read off page today, so the book wouldn't have helped him to begin with. Okay, so we're just gonna
Yeah,
let
sorry.
it. We're gonna let it fly.
I was trying to do that self-tape for you, Lars, and I could not even read the script for her, so hopefully.
I mean,
it
that's
worked out.
okay. That's okay because normally I know what I'm going to say to some degree before I get here. I mean, I guess that it does change based on how many Dos Equis I assume. So, you know.
Are you at Dose yet?
I'm actually at, I'm at, no, Dos, doesn't really matter. We're at a certain amount of Equis,
The
okay?
old Dos Equis trick.
You know, I may
Well,
not be the most interesting man in
I
the
will-
world, but when I drink beer, I forget how many I drink.
I will jump in, and you're gonna have my Peroni then. Yeah.
I'm just going to hold it to
Okay.
be cool.
You can have it. You can have some if you want. I mean, we can.
Oh, also, Dos Equis, if you're listening, we could always use a sponsor for the show.
It's true. Have you guys moved on from that most interesting guy? Because we could be.
Didn't they
those.
send him into space or something? They canceled that ad and then sort of brought him back. It was like Tupac Shakur. Not sure if he's dead or not, but he's still making albums. Like, it was
Sorry,
really
he's
interesting
in
for a while.
space Now?
I don't know. I mean, how would I know?
I literally don't know what we're talking about right
Speaking
now.
about in space, I will propose for the first question, dude. We've talked a lot about localizing these stories, very Toronto stories, but I will open it up and ask you: do you have any drunken disorderly-esque stories that have happened abroad, outside?
Yes. Oh, you wanted to hear one?
I would love to hear one. Do you guys want to hear one?
Yeah, but okay, all right.
39
Also, who's
D&D
drinking tonight? Make
up-
some noise if you're drinking. Raise the
abroad.
glass. Some of you are
Even
drunk.
the girl that forgot her wallet's drinking. We're all drinking tonight.
Those are drunk and disorderly.
I don't miss a beat. You see that? You come to my show, it's you and me. It's personal now. Remember, also, this is a conversational show. So if you feel like you absolutely have to say something to us, you can. And we have a microphone. And we do kind of encourage that because, frankly, it's more fun that way.
Bob
Windy
tells
City Nick, get your hand away from it. Wait.
Yeah,
wait
Windy City,
for
Nick,
it.
just wait. We'll hear about what happened in Chicago when I'm done. You don't even know what I'm going to tell you. The story's completely, just let it
Did it
let
happen in
form.
Chicago?
Actually, I've never been to Chicago. So, no, it didn't happen in Chicago. Not this time.
Well,
don't
yeah.
So, I have family in the United States, right? And I have had a couple of strange instances. I got pulled over driving a riding mower down the side of the interstate because I learned a fairly interesting thing about American law. The riding mower is too few cc's on its own to be considered a motor vehicle, which means you do not need an operator's license to drive one. Yet, it goes significantly faster than drunk me walking down the side of the highway. So, I figured to get smokes at the nearest store, which again, we're in the boondocks in Illinois. You got drive down the mountain, past that hill, 4 rights on the left, that kind of directions. I'm like, shit, I already mowed the 10 acres of lawn. I'll just refill her and go for a beer. So off I go, and don't forget, you don't have to mow all the way, people. That's the key. So, you pull the lever, the mower blades come up. You get a lot better mileage that way anyhow, right? So flying along and probably 6-7 miles an hour. But 6-7 miles an hour down a steep hill sounds slow. 6-7 miles back up that fucking mountain after like a fifth of whiskey and 20 beer, that sounds fast. You know what I mean? Because, like, the ditch just keeps looking at you, and the ditch is not a ditch. It's a fucking hill in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, mountain country. So you dip off that one. It's 20 minutes till you find yourself back at the fucking bar where you got on the lawnmower to begin with. So fuck it, just drive. Anyway, I guess the weirdest part about the story being pulled over by a state trooper was that his truck actually had the little flip-down ramp thing to drive like an ATV or a lawn tractor up into the back of it, and he didn't seem all that shocked. Like, he pulls me over, and I'm driving along, you know, I'm just born to be wild, like gunning at a top speed of like maybe 7 miles an hour down the verge on the side of the interstate, right? Red line, like up the hill, like doing this little, you know, shaky shack routine, right? And then I hit this spotlight comes on me, right? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. I got this covered. I know what's going on here. And the guy just pulls up real slow in his truck, like just, you know, you can tell he's just kind of leisurely driving along. He's watching me for a bit, and I look over, I'm like, hey, how's it going? He's like, son, you do realize you're driving a lawnmower down the interstate. And I'm like, technically I'm next to the interstate, and yes, I do know that. He's like, could you pull the lawn tractor over, please? Yeah, okay. You know, it's a lawn tractor, right? So I hop off, and the guy gets out of his truck. He's standing there, he's rubbing his face, you know, he's looking at me, he's like, where are you from, boy? And I'm like, well, I'm not from around here. And he's like, yeah. So, where are you going? And I'm like, well, I'm driving up the hill. My grandparents live, you know, the shadow of Gertie's Knob on Rough Red Line there, and, you know, it's a little back road. Lived there for 100 years. Like, the family's been there all over. Grandfather built the house. You know, you probably know him and shit. You know, remember the church and really great guys. So why are you driving a lawn tractor drunk down the side of the highway? I'm like, because I don't have a driver's license. I don't want to break the law. That would be wrong. And he stops. Just freezes. I mean, wrong. That would be wrong. Yeah. Mighty unchristian of me to break the law in a county I don't even live in. I mean, you know, I got drunk. I obviously had more beers than I should be operating a motor vehicle, so I'm not going to drive a vehicle, sir. I'm just going to mow my way home, you know. Besides, like, you know, if I have to do community service, the verge is pretty rough here. I could just drop the blades and do it on the way. He's like, I'm going to commandeer this tractor and drive your ass home because I do know where your grandparents live and I do know who they are. But I'm also going to leave a note in the mailbox. I'm like, fuck. And I'll tell you this, didn't occur to me until after I was already laying in bed after sneaking into Grandma's house that I could just go out and take the note out of the mailbox. Didn't occur to me in the slightest. So I'm like, wake up first thing in the morning. I'm like, oh shit, fucking notes in the mailbox. I'm here on summer vacation. I'm, you know, underage. My grandma's going to freak out. And, you know, pretty religious people. They're chill, but, you know, as chill as fundamentalist Christians get, right? They're chill. So I'm thinking, oh, man, it's like military camp for me. I got to get to this mailbox. I bolt out the front door and realize it's noon. And Grandma probably got the mail like 8 hours ago, right? And I look over, and she's sitting on the balcony there making hot dogs. And Grandpa looks over with this really strange smile, right? He's like, And I'm thinking, I'm in a lot of trouble. And what the note actually said was, your lawn tractor was stolen. Your grandson found it and recovered it with the help of the local sheriff's department. And so, you know, good for him. I couldn't believe that. And then I remembered that I wrote it. and I had found the note earlier. And yeah, that was the weird smile. So I was off video rental privileges for the entire trip and was like, you know, had to like pray a lot and stuff. It was intense. But
that was intense. Do you get it, Trev? He wrote the note.
Oh. Okay.
Can I, so for those of you who are listening, and especially those of you who are listening for the first time, Bob tells these crazy stories. If you're wondering why Trevor and I are here, other than being the eye candy, we're also the sidekick. We like to throw him questions and little, like, the color commentators. We're also the masterminds behind the whole thing.
We also like to just let Bob run sometimes.
We're the brains.
Well, the trick is I never would have the format to tell you guys these stories because this wouldn't occur to me. You know, with my barstool degree in human socioeconomics, I'm like, yeah, well, you can do things on the internet for free like that? And these guys are like, well, not entirely for free, but we can probably do them. And I'm like, oh, hey.
I feel like you're the type of guy that still goes to the library for his internet. Do you check your email at the library?
No, I just
Library.
don't check my email.
Oh, right, exactly.
No, I have a smartphone. I've checked my email on this. I paid a bill online the other day. It was wild. I'm not even kidding. It was the first time I ever paid a bill online. I know that sounds completely ridiculous.
Wow. Huge. Give him a round of applause. He just paid a bill online. I would like to also add or / shout out to that story. When you were describing that your lawnmower didn't have enough CCs to be considered a vehicle, that guy right there, as you were saying it, was like already nodding, like he's done the research. He was like, yeah,
Yep.
fucking right, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Hang 'em
You
high
and
states,
me."
man. Hang 'em high states. You can do a lot of time for fucking around with drinking impaired. But you know what? Lawnmower impaired? Ain't no time for that, son. They're like, oh, well, you're an idiot, but, well, you're just an idiot. Drive you home, son, to take care, you know?
Anyone else use a vehicle on highways or roadways that weren't meant for it? Take a drink if you have. Shout it out if you have.
Inappropriate vehicle. There he is. Lawnmower man! You and me, buddy.
Yeah,
That's
what
how
else?
it
It'd
is.
Be lawnmowers, maybe golf carts occasionally. Golf carts may be the kind of thing that are most drunk.
Go-karts.
Most drunk driving. Go-karts? Have you been drunk go-karting?
No, I don't fit in go-karts.
Oh, right. Of course. Yeah,
That would be
So-
hilarious.
I also love how you talk
Be
about
like
production
DK
value.
in Mario Kart. It's like, sorry. What?
Those were some solid lawnmower sound effects. Did you guys hear this lawnmower
Yeah,
sound
man.
effects? Right? Those are pretty good. Hit us with a little bit more. Come on.
More lawnmower something?
Yes.
That's what
for
we came
me,
here to
for
see.
me. And then see? Wow.
You get a good roll on the highway.
Right?
It was also the training that they needed to for the trench for Star Wars. It's the same thing.
And the best part is it took me, like, honestly, 2 hours to figure out how to work the lever that made the blades go up. So I'm sitting in the backyard going, like, I want to go for a beer and a pack of smokes, but I got to get these. I'm not going to drive along mowing things. That's irresponsible, right? The shit that goes through your head when you're already doing stupid things, it's amazing. Like, I better not be dumb about this. This whole lawnmower to the store thing, better not be dumb about that. It was I saw the bar on the way to the store, and that was the it. That was like Walmart for the smokes, and then there's like Sid's, you know, and I don't know who Sid is, but he's selling beer, and I'm down. I'm like, yeah, I'll meet this guy. You know, and the 10 pickup trucks. That's you gotta love the place. It's obviously the kind of place you park your lawn tractor and go for a beer. Like everyone's like, no one batted an eyelash. Guy standing outside, I'm gonna smoke next to his truck. I pull in the lawn tractor, like fresh pack of cigarettes in my pocket. Like, yeah, no one batted an eyelash. So honestly, I think it happens a lot more than people think. I really do. I think it's one of those things that actually occurs.
Does occur.
I also convinced Walmart employees on the same trip that everyone in Canada is over 6'4". So I mean, like, take that for what it is. But again, you walk in when you come from Southern Ontario, one of the magical parts about traveling the world that people not from here don't seem to understand is that we actually don't have an accent. And that's what sounds funny. It's not that we have a funny accent, it's that we have no accent. Golden Horseshoe English is accent-free. It's the most understandable veriform of English on the planet, and that is a fact you can check on your phones if you wish. Because they do courses all over the world, in Europe and everywhere else, where they have English instructors from this region of the world teach newscasters and actresses and actors how to speak without an accent. So in Pittsburgh, you walk into the Walmart, and the first thing you get is, well, you got a funny accent. Oh, yeah, I do. It's crazy. It's really funny. It's not there at all. They're like, you're really huge. And that's noticeable. I get that everywhere, right? And I'm like, man, you should see the Mounties. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it's the snow, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah, snow every winter. It's like 5.5 feet deep. And if you're not tall enough, you can't walk anywhere. So you got to get these legs going, right? You see the Mounties, every one of them. 7'4", crazy guy. I mean, why do you think NBA didn't take off? There too much snow. Just afraid. All our Mounties will win. And the guy's like, oh, that's really weird. And I'm like, thinking to myself, no, it's a total fabrication. But hey, this is interesting. Where's this going to go? And I'm like, so can I get a pack of smokes? Do you have any ID? No, I'm from Canada. You wouldn't take my ID anyway. Look at my money. And like, it's all funny and stuff, right? And he's like, are they really all that big? I'm like, yeah, man, fucking huge. huge. I'm like a little guy, dude. He's like, that's pretty crazy. And I'm like, yeah. Grab the smokes and I'm walking out. I'm like, that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is I just had that fucking conversation in the real world. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
You know. But when you're driving a lawn tractor to Walmart, you can't be picky.
You wanted to tell a story about the difference between violence back in the day when most of these crazy stories happened versus today.
Yeah, I mean, most of the Drunken Disorderlies, which is what the podcast is about, that I got between the ages of 18 and 27. And that was when I was playing in bands, working exclusively in nightclubs and bars, and sometimes was of no particular fixed address, and just drunk and wasted and partying as a lifestyle decision. Like, you know, some people are like, you know, I have future goals. I'm going to university. And I was like, ha-ha. I have a different plan. And it was stupid. So I did that instead and ended up getting arrested a lot and drinking a lot. And I mean, arrested is the wrong word. Getting stopped by the police and getting arrested is not the same thing. I never got, like, dragged to jail and hit. I never got dragged to jail in handcuffs. I ended up there once. I'll tell that story at some point, but that's the penultimate. That's the 39 Drunken Disorderly story. So we'll say that as a teaser. Keep listening. But I've had a lot of encounters with the cops, and not just with the cops, but that's what tonight's about, with the sort of shadier side of the law in general. I mean, you can't kind of be a crazy guy and not end up meeting crazy people that have problems like you. So working in bars, and particularly after hours, which I spent a lot of time working in, you meet not just kind of criminals, not street criminals, you meet like criminals, like seriously crazy individuals on a fairly regular basis. And when you're not one of them and you're just kind of making some money as a mercenary on the side, hoping for the best, it can be an extremely intense experience, right? And you walk into that blind because there is no prep course on how to sit down with a gangster and like, or the mobster and have, you know, cocktails. There's no, you can watch all the Joe Pesci movies in the world. You're never going to get it. You know what I mean?
There should be. Someone should do an online course. Maybe you should do it. We'll throw it up on Udemy and charge a subscription fee for it.
I don't think it would work. I don't think it would work because, you know, it's a time and a place thing too, right?
Right.
So when I first started the industry like 20 years ago, when I was 18, the violence in the city was one of those things that you could just expect. It was like a little bit of fist fighting here and there. Occasionally a weapon, but usually an improvised weapon. So a knife, or someone breaks a bottle or tries to eat with an ashtray or something weird like that, you know?
What's the weirdest thing you've hit someone with or been hit by?
Hit with was probably a 9-iron. That was weird.
Nice.
That's the weirdest, though. The weirdest thing I ever hit someone with was a Christmas tree.
You wielded the tree?
That makes
You
perfect
weld the tree?
sense.
Now, it sounds funny that it is. It wasn't like a decorated Christmas tree. Which, you know, when your dad, like, throws the Christmas tree on the front lawn after Christmas, and, like, 3 weeks later it's still there, and all the branches and leaves are basically, the splinters have fallen off it, and it's just basically this knobbly piece of wood with all kinds of, like, spines and
Gnarled
spikes sticking
staff.
off it. It was one of those. So, yeah, it was a Christmas tree, and when I said it was like, ha, 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 and I'm like, you should have seen the guy. That wasn't that funny. It wasn't. But he was, like, really hurting a friend of mine, so I figured there was not much I could do, and I just Christmas treed him.
Nice. That's such a good move.
And we took off, and I'm sure Christmas tree guy has, like, marks to prove that for the rest of his life, because, you know, you don't get hit with, like, 40 pounds of, like, spiky nonsense and just kind of like, meh, you know.
That's for sure. So also, I should side note to those of you who are here, we're turning this podcast eventually into a live action show. That's part of what this is about, is to flush out these stories. And I can fucking guarantee you there's going to be a scene where Bob Christmas trees someone. So if you're listening to this, stay tuned to the episode where he Christmas trees a guy.
And the reason I
Christmas
said
special.
golf club, I know the golf club itself is not as random an item, but I don't think it's that I was hit with a golf club. It's how it went down. Because I saw it coming, and I thought, I'm going to either take this 9-iron in the face or I'm going to try something really crazy. So, of course, I stepped into it. You know, your impulse is to get away from it, but I'm like, I'm not going to make it. So I stepped in, and the head of the golf club missed me, and the rod
Nice.
caught me across the head and went, "Brr," and just bent. And it hurt. Don't be wrong, that hurt. But it was nothing like getting hit in the head with a golf club. I was like, ah! And I leaned back away from the guy, and he's like, he lets go of the golf club, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
And it's like cartoon bent around your head now. Like,
Yeah.
"Brr."
And what made that
so
story
smart.
very cool is those flexi like carbine rods. I snapped my wrist out straight in anger, taking the rod off my head, like, whew, and the weight at the end of it snapped it almost back straight. And I was like, now who's got the golf club? And body guy just bolted. He's like, boo, you know, because you did the best you could. You had that golf club, you swung it, and it cartooned me. And now you're like, oh shit, the giant guy has my golf club, and it's not funny anymore, you know?
Acme Golf Club, yeah.
That's a good life lesson, I think. In a weird way, that's like some metaphorical life lesson when just like some
Step into the golf club.
something's coming at you, just you can run from it, or it's like when you're surfing and there's a big wave, it's either going to crash down on you, or you can like dive into it and duck under it, and you can hopefully escape. You did a surfing move right there.
What?
Next time
Yeah.
things look bleak, anybody, just step
Yeah.
into it. You know,
Just fucking lean into it.
Fucking step into
Okay, golf clubs, yes. Baseball bats, no.
it.
Right. Oh yeah.
Don't step into those.
Yeah, I guess it's
Okay.
not universal.
Depends on how close you're stepping there, Muay Thai. Okay, if you're getting right in there, maybe. But I'm not like, listen. Yeah. Uh-oh.
So
Karim,
the-
our kung fu
I,
expert over
I was
here.
saying I disagreed because
Our martial arts cameraman is going to
yeah, exactly. I was gonna comment at this as a martial artist. Like when somebody tries to roundhouse you, like a roundhouse kick.
Yeah.
One of the defenses is stepping in.
Well, yeah, sure.
So
The roundhouse kick is not a baseball bat.
now what? Technically, when they train you, they want you to basically have your foot do the same arc as a baseball bat. So if you step into the first like 10 inches, it will hurt a lot less than the end of the bat.
Oh, of course.
So that's what I'm saying.
Right, you are mitigating force as you take it off the fulcrum, obviously. But the point is, it's still not a baseball bat. And when people swing a baseball, they often choke up more than they think they do. As you step in, you actually catch more of the bat than you thought you were going to.
True.
That's usually the case with it.
The
I don't
psychology
have
here.
any experience with this, so I'm just saying purely speculatively. When you swing a bat at somebody,
Figuratively speaking,
you usually choke up on it and they step into it and it hurts them.
we are breaking down the psychology of a bat swing.
I don't know about you, Trev, or any of our listeners or audience members, but I find the best technique is to not step in a ring and to not fight a guy. A buddy of ours is a fighter, and he just fought. He's a fighter, and he's also an actor, and he fought on Friday, and he broke his big toe and his little toe on one foot and sprained his other foot. Shout out to Marcus. Marcus Tarnoy.
Marcus
Sorry,
Tarnoy.
buddy. That sucks. I would never kick
Marcus
someone
not
that
walking
hard.
much right now, in other
Right,
words.
he is not.
Taking some time off.
He is looking for a used lawnmower to get him around right now.
Well, people forget also, I mean, a lot of people don't know any professional fighters or martial artists, but usually after any major bout or match, the person, even if you win, you're on break for quite a while because you are broken.
Right.
Like, you might not look as bad as the guy that got, knocked out in the ring, but you've still taken 10 or 15 kicks, 20 punches, who knows, right? And that it always hurts. It's just a matter of whether you can tolerate it or not.
Well, that's like I talk about the ring, and for you, it's kind of the
Oh, great.
cut off unofficial ring. I've had enough. The unofficial ring, which is where you've done most of your sparring. How much time have you needed after some of your encounters? Like, what's the longest layup?
Oh,
you've had?
2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks. Just
I was out for 2 weeks. I had well, no, that wasn't a professional boxing match. Like I said, it's just throwing hooks and punches. And when you're bare knuckle boxing and people aren't necessarily trained, it was. I got really hurt, but 2 weeks is about all I needed because it was just subsistence, bruises, face. Like it looked stupid and I looked terrifying, which actually worked. Coming back to work, it's like, this guy, we're like, yo, the guy obviously got punched sometime, and I don't want to get punched ever, so let's just leave him alone. And that works a lot. Don't forget, image is at least half of bouncing, at least, because bouncing is a finite science. I mean, you can only guess so much at what you're doing before it turns into either you know or you don't. And when I teach guys to do the job, I tell them 3 things to have to know right off the bat. 1, you will eventually get hit no matter how good you are. That's the nature of the industry. It's violent, and you eventually get tagged. 2, you can't predict every possible situation. That's just impossible. I mean, unless you're the great prognosticator, you know what I mean? You hold the envelope to your head and say, well, this is the day I'll be shot, 4 days from now. You'll never know. And 3, people are crazier than you think they are. Even if you've seen what you think is the craziest thing you've ever seen, every single time I've said to myself, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen, along comes another scenario, and I find myself saying, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I've been doing that for 20 fucking years.
What's one of those or a couple of those?
Oh, I saw a guy get his face peeled off with an X-Acto knife. And I thought, wow, that is the craziest thing I have ever seen. And in fact, I looked at a coworker. I mean, I'm holding paper towel. I wrapped a paper towel roll around this guy's head, and I'm carrying him out to the medics, and I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. This is crazy.
He got his face peeled off with an X-Acto knife?
Well, it didn't come all the way off. It was kind of flapping. But, like,
Fuck.
he got slashed here and then was still fighting, and I guess the flap that was hanging kind of got caught. So a bunch of it ripped off and was just sort of off his face. And he was so fucked up and angry and high and shit. He's whipping his head back and forth, and he's yelling at people, and I'm like, please stop moving, sir. Please stop moving. Your face is flapping like a kite, and it's scaring me. Could you please stop moving?
Like full Hannibal.
And because I'm one of the few guys in my work that had full first aid, they're like, Bob, you should do something about this. It's pretty crazy.
Did you?
Yes, I wrapped an entire roll of paper towel around his head. And we called the medics, and I was like, there's a guy here, it looks like half his face is sort of attached.
I think you're supposed to dip his whole head in milk. Isn't that what you're supposed to do when a guy's face is peeled off? You're supposed to put it in milk?
And then on a different, yes, that's right,
when
milk.
he unveiled himself, it was really Hannibal Lecter who had changed his skin with somebody else.
That's
and
right,
was
he'd
to
already
escape.
taken someone's face in the back room, was just trying to fool me.
Right.
No, there was no fooling. And then 3 weeks later, after that, I saw a guy jump off the top of the speaker rack at the Opera House, doing like the hey crowd, catch me!
No fucking way.
And he jumped. He's 16 feet above a concrete
that's a
floor.
huge jump.
Does a swan dive like this, and everyone in the crowd goes, "Yeah, fuck that!" And they back up like, and he lands like face first on the ground, bang! And you hear it. There's a metal band playing, right? And you can still hear this. And even the band's like, whoa. And they're looking over, and this guy's just there, like, speared on the fucking floor. I get to him, and he stands up on his own, right? Like, the power of alcohol compels you.
Like
And he looks right at me with one eye, and the other one is doing this and looking at his belt because he shattered his entire orbital bone. So his eye is just sort of going out of the socket.
He's on like a slinky.
And the medic who treated him at the Opera House told me that it was actually lucky the guy had sort of loose ocular nerves, because what usually happens is the eyeball goes and sucks back into the socket, which is actually harder to treat because then they got to use sort of like a vacuum to pull your eye back. Anyway, so like I said, every time I've said to myself, wow, that is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Something comes along and makes me look like an idiot for saying that. So I've got to the point now where all I say, I'm like, well, that was weird. Because I know sooner or later
How about that?
I'll see something. Yeah, well, that was weird. Well, yeah.
Did you ever train any bouncers who you thought, okay, this is not going to go well, and then they turned out to be like a super bouncer, like they were either a small person and then for whatever reason they're amazing?
No, not really, because it's not about size. It really isn't. It's about skill set, application, and
Right.
intelligence. And if you know the person has the right abilities, they will have those abilities regardless of mass. Size is just one determining factor, and because
Says the 7'1" guy.
well, and the reason it's a determining factor is because it's presence. So at 100 feet, you don't see the 5'11", highly trained, very competent guy, but you do see me. There's a whole sea of heads, and then there's my bitch tits in my face, like standing with the crowd, going, "Yo, calm down, be quiet, stand in line, no smoking." That kind of thing. No sex in the champagne room, whatever it happens to be that I'm guarding or enforcing, right? But no, many of the guys that I worked with and trained with are a lot smaller than me. Actually, really giant bouncers is not the norm. Like 6'6", 250 pounds, that's about the biggest that bouncers usually are. When you see crews that are much, much bigger than that, usually dealing with clubs that have an extraordinarily violent history. And the funny thing is, it's not that they've hired the biggest, most competent guys. It's that the manager is so afraid of the violence that's happened there. He's like, I want nothing but tanks. Get me 300 tanks. I want 9,000 pounds of meat to stand between me and the violence. That's what I want. I don't care if it can do anything. It's just, I want to not be able to see the crowd anymore. Security! And there's just this, and there's no more bar. Like, that's it. Yeah, that's what I want, right? Because those giant squads are usually ineffectual. You need spotters, you need smaller, trained guys to deal with various different situations. You need a diversity of people, obviously. Like, you almost always need a diversity of skills for just about any profession. So,
Do you find that when you get into like some of these altercations where you got to use your physical force on somebody, and then the cops show up, and then they're kind of figuring out what happened, and one guy's messed up? You get the pass a little bit sometimes because you're both on the law enforcement
as a bouncer,
side?
yes. As a bouncer, yes.
Come on,
Even
what?
working in after hours, as long as it's righteous. You know,
Yeah,
like
well,
if I
yeah.
just beat the crap out of some guy for like absolutely nothing, then no.
Well, yeah, we talked about the spitting story one time, I think. Remember that? Remember the guy? No? Okay, watch episode
tell
3
us.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Where on the footage, like, you can see him spitting on you. So when they showed up, they're like, "Oh yeah, he needed to get dealt with." Like,
Yeah, the cops are like, can I see the footage, please? I'm like, yes, you can. It was like we had a riot at the Opera House one night. A band came in and they couldn't get over the border, and it was supposed to be like a reggae tribute night. And there was like 4 different bands, some pretty famous. I don't remember who they are now because that was like years and years ago and I didn't care. But the band couldn't get over the border, and so the 300 people that had bought tickets from Ticketmaster standing outside couldn't get in. And all I could tell them was, look, we don't work for Ticketmaster. I can't give you your money back. So, what do you want? And they were like, we want in, we want a show, we want our money back. I'm like, we don't have your money, man. Like, please call Ticketmaster. And it just went nuts outside. It took 35 minutes for the cops to show up. There was like cars burned and destroyed on the street, like buses crashed. They kicked in half the front doors. It was pretty intense, right? And that was just one of those situations where, again, just a simple miscommunication of interest between who sold you the ticket and where the money comes from turned into a riot, like 300 people trashing the streets. And it's like, we only sold 5 tickets, man. That's $20 a piece. Do the math. The till has $120 in it. Do you guys each want 60 cents? Like, should we just start like busting out the nickels, boys? Like, what's going on? Like, I can't help you. There's no money here, man. So yeah, definitely the violence just happens sometimes, and it really doesn't matter what the situation is.
Should we move to audience Q&A? You can ask General Bob questions. You can ask questions about booze, crazy partying, being a huge giant. You can ask a specific story about today's episode.
relate your own.
Come on over to the audience mic here.
Relate your own.
Yeah, why don't you
Oh wow, we got a long court. Nice, good.
We are amping up.
How you guys doing?
Good, man.
Great, how
Good
are
to
you?
see
Sweet.
Identify
Yeah,
yourself.
I'm Cam.
This is
Hi.
Cam, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Cam.
The newly
Citizen,
newly
identify yourself.
newly appointed Uncle Cam.
Oh yeah, I just became an uncle. It's coming up on a month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is your month uncle-versary.
Not my kid. Yeah. You might have been asked this.
If you're an uncle and it's not your kid, that's a pretty good thing right there. Otherwise, I was gonna say me and this guy should go lawn rider,
Yeah.
together, just like from here all the
Yeah,
way home.
No
Ride
responsibility.
your
yet.
lawnmower with your uncle dad.
They probably do it on
It's the
Saskatchewan.
Classington family.
Anyway, go ahead.
You might have been asked this one already, but I was wondering about any crazy alcohol laws that you've come across in your travels. I remember hearing from a manager of mine when I worked in a bar. They were somewhere in the States, and they had their beers, and they ordered a round of shots, and the bartender came over and put the shots in front of them and took the beers, and they were like, "Oh, no, we're not finished with those." And they're like, no, you're not allowed to have a beer and a shot in front of you at the same time in this county.
Wow.
And have you seen anything crazy like
I don't
that?
travel much for 3 obvious reasons. I don't fit in many transports, like planes. I actually have to buy an extra seat ticket just to get into one of the, long leg seats unless you want to go first class, which I can't afford. So I don't travel much. And in the northern states, for the most part, their liquor laws are very, very similar to ours. There are some strange ones, like you can't carry your own beer from the bar to the table.
Where's that at?
I can't remember where. I think it was in Michigan.
Stupidville.
Nailed him.
This
You
guy.
got him now.
He roasted you.
Laying on the.
Oh. I'm sorry, guys.
For those of you not watching live, that's my co-hosts and producers, just basically showing off why the show's about me and not about them.
Yeah. I said we shouldn't do it on a Monday night.
Well, you know.
I've been-
But no, the weirdest thing about drinking laws here, actually, that I do know is kind of stupid, is if you order a pitcher, they have to give you a minimum of 2 glasses, and that's irritating when you just intend to drink the pitcher by yourself. Because what do you need glasses for? I mean, that's just absurd. It has a handle on it. But no, it's an interesting question, and I'm sure for internet fodder, those of you out there listening and those of you around here, if you looked up stupid internet, drinking laws, I guarantee you'd find.
Write in, tag 39DD show
Yeah.
with all of your
With the
random
stupidest drinking law you can find or have ever
We
experienced.
would love
personally.
international ones too, like
Yeah.
India, whatever. Like
The problem is in Europe they drink like adults. So the drinking laws are like laws about drinking. Okay, you should do it, and you can do it almost anywhere, and it's probably cheaper than it is there. And if you don't drink, we think you're strange. So welcome to Germany, Austria, England, the Netherlands, Scotland, basically anywhere in Europe. Like, yeah, the drinking thing. I don't know why you got such a hard time with that. It's like we just do that like all the time. What's the problem? Our problem is, again, I said this before on our show, Toronto and Canada in general has an immature drinking culture. That's it. It's that simple. There's nothing else to it. We treat public spaces as though if there were alcohol present in them, somebody's like, Mormon sensibilities would kill them. Like they'd walk by and just literally, is that a beer? I don't know what I'm going to do. Our liquor stores close early on Sundays. Like we're all in church. We got to go to that evening mass, guys. You can't buy a beer because, you're waiting for evening mass. I mean, these things, they're draconian. They're draconian, and they don't actually make better drinkers. They make worse drinkers. It's sort of the helicopter parent thing, right? The more ludicrous rules you have put on you for no reason, the more likely you are to be an idiot when you break them.
We got someone else up here. Talking to the mic. Busy City Nick. You should know how this works.
They were just talking because they're from North Carolina. They were talking about how insane it is that there's no, convenience stores that sell alcohol. And again, when I lived in Chicago,
Windy City Nick!
The segue.
7-Eleven, you could just get a 24-pack.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing.
That's one of the few things I enjoy about traveling in the States is literally absolutely that. I mean, I've been a few places in the States, and it's great. You go to a gas station, and it's like I'm buying cigarettes, I'm buying gas, and I need beer. Why do I have to go to 5 stores for that?
Well,
Why can't what's the deal?
Parts of Canada figure it out, like Quebec, Dépanneurs are out in Calgary too.
Yep.
All the privatization stores out there. So.
Right. Yes, the liquor store phenomenon is different. Yeah, that's very true.
Our friends from North Carolina.
Yeah, so I work in Asheville, North Carolina. I work brunch at a brunch restaurant where we serve alcohol, and it's kind of, it's like hush hush in North Carolina to have a glass of alcohol, of like a mimosa or a Bloody Mary with brunch. And it's like you really got to push them. And that's another really stupid rule of if you're there with your husband or your wife or whatever, you can't order 2 drinks if your partner's in the bathroom. I've had. Yeah,
Right, so
I've
it's
had-
it's one for one. That's right, it's 1 for 1.
1 for 1. I've
And
had.
some venues in Ontario do that. Like if
Yeah.
you can only usually it's as many as you can carry in your hands. So if you have a table of 4 and you point, you're sitting, the table's there 10 feet away, and you're like, yeah, I'm buying around for this table right here.
Mhm.
She'll be like, well, you can carry 2 of them back now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk all the way back here for 2 fucking beers. You
No,
kidding me?
I've had a woman come in with her husband, and I saw her husband, but I can't serve her if her husband's in the bathroom because I need to see 2 IDs if I'm gonna ring in 2 drinks.
And what
Wow.
time? What time is there a morning cutoff that you can?
What time? Yeah, what time do you start selling mimosas?
Only on Sundays. That's the only liquor law. I can only start selling on 10 a.m. on Sundays, but during the week I can sell anytime I want.
But of course,
Huh.
Yeah.
Sunday.
Really?
Fucking
Sunday's
Sundays.
untouchable.
Which is funny because brunch here in Ontario basically starts at 11 everywhere because you can't sell liquor anywhere until then.
Actually, I heard it just changed to 9.
Yeah, they did.
Right?
Yes, you're right. They did.
We did.
What is
it.
it?
We
What
went
is it?
in the
10
morning.
or 9? Yeah, great.
Yeah, you
They gave us
manage
one
a restaurant
they gave
and
us
you don't know.
1 more hour.
All right, fair enough. Right.
But again, yeah, I see exactly what you mean. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. That's one of those stupid drinking laws, you know? It's like,
What about cheap drinks? And you mentioned Michigan. I've been in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I went out to a bar one night, and the drinks for at least an hour or two were 25 cents. Same thing in Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was like Miller Lite was 25 cents. It was crazy.
Florida was
So
ridiculous.
for like $10, you get fucking
They
destroyed.
basically paid you to get drunk.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
$10 you can buy 40 beers.
except the one we just discussed, actually, that's not entirely true, because in the States, unlike here, with our liquor stores, there is a differentiation in price between cheap booze and expensive booze. Whereas here, even the most premium brands are only a couple of dollars different by the 40. So you think about it, you go and buy Smirnoff, it's like 26, whatever. You buy Russian Prince, which comes in a fucking plastic bottle half the way or whatever, and it's 24 or 22, right? Because it's all tax. You know what I mean? It's all tax. So, and again, that goes all the way up until you get the ultra premium, and even then, only the ultra premium is more expensive. There really isn't much of a gradation between premium and ultra premium. Whereas if you had a liquor special in the States where I could buy, like, you know, the cheapest possible vodka and sell it for 50 cents, you're still buying it for like $4 or $5 for a big old dirty plastic bottle. So the 25 cents, you make your money back and then some. You know, like, yeah. Whereas here, drink specials doesn't work. Having drink specials in a bar really doesn't save you any money. It doesn't make you any money. It's just a promotional thing. You can get away with it, sort of. And for a while, you couldn't even do that.
Yeah, that's why happy hours in the States are like all day, whereas here it's like 2 hours.
And even then, you're also skirting the law. For a long time, you couldn't do drink specials because that would be selling alcohol underneath the provincial cap on percentage, right? So it has to be this much for this many ounces, or this much for that much beer, blah blah blah, because it's all standardized, right? And that's how they tax it. So
Stick to
Audience
the
question.
man.
Sorry. It's not so much a question, just a comment. So now it's legal to smoke pot on the street. So the other day I saw someone smoking a bong on the street. But a big bong too, like, you know,
That's great.
but we're not allowed to drink a beer on the street.
that's right.
That would be offensive.
A 4.5 foot gravity bong attached to a gas mask. That's just an accessory you want in a public playground. You know what I'm saying? But a can of Budweiser, now that's going over the line.
Something that we also have in the works, and maybe I can pull the room here, but would you guys drink Big Bob beer? Yeah?
Yes.
Or Big Bob bourbon?
Yes.
Not if
Big
I-
Bob Brewery.
Not
Windy
if I
City
made it.
Nick approved.
Yes.
You got something for us, Windy City Nick?
He's just saying yes, he'd drink my beer.
Yes.
He's holding the mic.
How are you? You guys doing good? I'm just chilling.
We have been so far.
So we like to massage
know-
our segments out.
Should
we
we
don't
take
like
the mic away from Windy City
we
Nick?
don't like to overplan these things.
No, we're just going to plug it into a feedback loop so it gives him 50,000 volts, and we're going to record that as our intro song.
Yes.
Windy City Nick's good.
Windy City Nick is good, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. I think we
I
should
think we're concluded. I think we said all we can say.
start closing this out. Make sure to hit us up at 39DD Show on Instagram, Facebook.
Please do.
Full
We
video
love you guys. It's
episodes
great.
are also on YouTube now. Where are we? We're at Spotify,
We're
Google
tubing.
Playlist.
That means
Wherever
real
you're
soon we're
watching
gonna
or
get
listening
banned.
to this right now. We're also there. You've probably, if you're watching this, you've already
You
found
can't
us.
have the kind of lawnmower fun we've had and stay monetized online. So download us now while you still can. Free the people. Set us
And
free.
thank you everybody who came out tonight. The studio audience,
Yeah,
you were
give
terrific.
it up
Thank
to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
thank
You guys are
so
the best.
much.
Give yourselves a round of applause.
Thank
we love
you
you.
so much.
Here we are, downtown Toronto, 1830.
North Carolina in the
Home-
house.
North Carolina in the house, home of the champions. Toronto
Yeah.
Raptors, we are the champions. Oh, and the last plug this Thursday, Lars and I
Ooh.
at the Underground Cafe. If you would like to come see us live, one-act show, 1 hour special, 8 p.m.
But if you're listening to this now,
I was
going to
say, you know what occurred? Yeah, I was going to say, you know what occurred to me? All the plugs we do at the end of these shows, since they don't go up for a week,
They
we
gotta
have to,
be
we have
2
to be
weeks
careful.
Oh, we were supposed to plug this last
out.
week.
If you're
Yeah.
listening to this right now, you missed a hell of a show where Trev and I were.
These guys killed it.
Yeah.
3 people showed up, and none of them had the same last name.
And
It was amazing.
it was all your fault.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.